Monday, September 11th, 2019. Approval and amendment of meeting agenda items.
Yes, you have a new agenda laying beside your computers. We've added a report item, 7.3, facilities, presenter Janet Milsis. Okay, the rest of it is as is.
So I move to approve the board meeting items for September 11th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and the amendment of the board meeting agenda items for September 11th, 2019. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the July 17, 2019 meeting as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 17, 2019 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Correspondence.
Have none, Mr. Chair.
Public comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Stroud.
I want it noted that as a gentleman, I was going to allow Mrs. Warner to go first, but she's not here today, so. Point that out. I'm going to do Mr. Rose's also, so here's some participation numbers. JV volleyball, 9 student athletes. Varsity volleyball, 11 student athletes. Varsity football, 36, which I think that's all varsity and JV, 36 athletes for the program there. Cross country, we're running 16 students from the high school and 5 middle school students. And then girls soccer, there's 18 student athletes. By boys soccer had low numbers, graduated 6 seniors and 2 moved away. The freshman class wasn't very big. We had 8 returning players, so we just had to cut that. We're still working with that and having communications with the boys to try to keep some things going to keep the program alive. Coach Albertson and I actually had a meeting today to brainstorm some ideas to keep the interest up, so hopefully the program will stay alive.
And I think at least 2 of those kids moved over to football.
There was a couple that did, yes. Middle school volleyball began practice on Monday this week, and there were 19 girls signed up. So that's some good numbers, pretty excited with that, considering I know there's a handful of middle school girls playing on a traveling soccer team, so good turnout, excited there. This Friday is the first home football game against Burns, kicks off at 7, and we're doing a little different this year, just doing some things different. NASB's having 2 food trucks parked on 3rd Street there. Just kind of have a little more tailgating atmosphere. We'll still have the concession stand open for the concession stand items. There'll be 2 food trucks there. So pretty excited about that. Scoreboard requires some engineering on the foundation as well as new posts due to its size. We have to do a permit here, so we have to go through the permit process. We'll try to start the construction once the permit is complete, as long as we can put it up, take it down, put it up within the time frame of our games. So there's no time estimate on that, but we are working on it. Okay, any questions for me on athletics?
Are we going to see a scoreboard this football season?
Actually, I'll give you that
about it.
report on the facilities.
Okay.
I'll just add that even though Pop Warner's not affiliated with the school, there is 19 7th and 8th grade boys playing.
It's good.
I'm
Feeding
coaching.
that program.
Yeah, keep it going. All right. High school report. Enrollment numbers for you. Currently there's 57 7th graders. Last year there was 57. 61 8th graders. Last year there was 54 8th graders. So right now we're at 122 at the middle school. Last year we're at 118 at this time. 9th grade 57 57. 10th grade 54 53. 11th grade 51 53. 12th grade 56 71. So currently we're at 218. Last year we were at 234. The OSAA 2A cutoff is 205. And I'm pretty sure that's with the allowance for the 25% of free and reduced students. So we'll still have to wait for those numbers. I think they wait for that solid cutoff date. Lonnie, do you know that ADM cutoff date, is that in September?
They'll do a fall and then they have
Yeah.
the third period ABM is what they really look at for numbers, but that's, you know, they look at fall enrollment.
So we'll see where we're at on that. We'll see where we're at. I know it was late October, early November that me and Mr. Rose had to make the trip to OSAA and do our plea. We'll see. At 218 in the free and reduced, we might be below. See. This summer, a handful of us went down to San Diego on an Avid trip, 3 days of, the first 2 days, we were there from 8 o'clock till, the one day, I think we were there till 5, Mr. Lou. Had a great time. We took 2 new staff members that had never done it before with us to increase our Avid group. Great conference. The keynote speaker was amazing, very energizing. Loved him. And so we appreciate the ability to go on that trip, especially with our staff. And today, our first early release Wednesday was an Avid training, and it was neat. The conversations at the tables were awesome. So I appreciate that. And, a good trip. Registration in first week. My hat's off to the ladies that work with registration, from LBL to Lonnie down to Deanna, Brandy, and Emma. Our registration was probably easily the smoothest I've ever witnessed, easily one of the smoothest in Lakeview. We got down to where we made a phone call to about 10 or 15 parents and said, hey, you haven't registered, what's going on? First day of school, by 8:15, our hallways were empty. There wasn't a line out Brandy's office. People wanted to change their schedules or enroll. And the first 3 days, smooth as it could be. We didn't have kiddos coming down to the office wanting to change classes or get out of classes. So very excited about the first 3 days. It was awesome. Staff goal. All of our staffs have SLG, student learning growth goals, but I added one goal that every staff member has to do, and we have a positive contact goal. So I thought I'd throw that in. So every staff member has some form of way of making a positive contact, whether it's individually with parents, or it's through school Facebook, school website, or through the newspaper. Every teacher's gonna have a positive contact goal. Kind of doing my kill 'em with kindness philosophy. Some changes at the high school that I'd like to update you on. Alt Ed program, Mrs. Stratton's class has kind of changed in how we're doing it. So the Alt Ed's first through fifth period, where students are receiving either direct instruction with Mrs. Stratton, or they're through online school and receiving their credits there. Sixth and seventh period, those students are either back enrolled in the general classroom at the school in classes that they want electives or whatever, or they're in work program. And those that couldn't find work program, we actually have them doing service learning, which is like work program, but it's on the school grounds. And they are working with Mrs. Albertson, and the 2 main projects right now are helping set up, inventorying, set up and take down sporting events, set up, inventory and cleaning concession stand, and every Wednesday they go down to the DMS basement and are organizing, cleaning the DMS basement. That would be the service learning crew. Work program, Mrs. Albertson's running that. She did a great job. She was there the first day of school, met all the students that came in, handed out what they got to do for as far as time cards and stuff like that. Pretty excited with that. ELL program, we have Mrs. Peak now as the EL teacher. She has 2 periods of ELL, and she also has 2 paras in that ELL program. And been down there and seen some great communication between her and the teachers, so I'm excited about that. We do have a Spanish teacher. Thought I'd throw that out there in case you didn't know. And Mr. Bishop's doing some great stuff for the students, so I'm pretty excited about that. And he's also teaching 1 class of Intro to Business. It's a semester class. I think there's 6 kids this semester. Next semester, I think it's high teens kiddos in the Intro to Business class. So I'm trying to build that program back into the curriculum if we have the staff and the numbers. So I'm excited about that. That was his minor. So his major was Spanish language and literature, and his minor was business, international business. And then the last one is Miss Reese brought in a class called Ag Mechanics, and she's really excited about that. She's wanted to teach it for a long time, mainly because one of the competitions that our FFA kids do is the Ag Mechanics competition. So she's bringing that curriculum into the classroom to bolster that piece. Excited about that. And the last piece is we now have, thanks to the work from people in our district and the ESD, in cooperation with the hospital, we have a school nurse, or the availability to a school nurse. And at the high school, we've already used her in a consult in 2 students' IEPs and 2 students' 504s because there was medical conditions. And it was nice to have the school nurse present at those 4 meetings.
What's a 504?
504 is like an IEP, but it's not through the IEP. It's for students who have any type of disability or barrier that keeps them from accessing curriculum. Did I do a good job?
Pretty good.
Thanks. On the
It's
terrace,
accommodations
It's
instead of modifications, so we don't have to change content. That would be the, and it's least restrictive compared to an IEP. IEPs are more restrictive.
so it's commons are students with ADHD or severe illnesses. They don't have a learning gap, but the access is inhibited.
And it can be as simple as somebody breaks their arm and has to write or type their stuff or take an oral test. That can be a 504, for a period. Well, that's one that we saw multiple times when I was going through school. So it can be from something pretty extreme to, audiovisual issues, or like you said, simple as I've got an arm fracture or a leg fracture and I can't do X, Y, or Z for this period of time until I recover.
Okay.
That's it from me. Any questions?
Just want to say I received a compliment on you, Mr. Stratton,
Oh, geez.
from a parent that's new to town, and you followed up with them 2 different times with their student, and anyway, very appreciative. So
Thank you.
thought that was above and beyond. Really appreciated the follow-up. So good job.
2 of my new teachers said, "Wow, are all your kids this nice?" They are blown away on how nice our kids are. So it is an easy place to work for our new teachers who come in from other school districts. I'm kind of blown away at how well behaved and how easy our kids are. So compliments go back to the community and the parents.
They haven't been down at school. What was Susan?
Kind of like the Shining, Jack was pretty good in all the stories. By the end of winter, it may change.
And now you'll have Mrs. Warner's report.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton.
Yeah, this is a great lead-in.
Lane has been enjoying this because his start to the school year was just smooth. And I'm not gonna paint quite as nice a picture that way for you, but I'd like to run through our calendar real quick and then we'll talk about some changes and projects that we're working on. We're in the middle, because we had some chaos down there with a bunch of new students, we threw in dental screenings this week, kindergarten assessments, and then our fall benchmark testing. So our kids are doing easy CBM testing as well this week. So we have all kinds of things going on this week in our classrooms. We start interventions, our special ed push-in services. Our special ed services will be going into the classroom for reading this year, which is a little bit different. And then our RTI interventions for Title I math and reading will start on Monday. They've been testing all week this week. We have a new teacher orientation next week for our new teachers, just kind of talk them through the evaluation process and start some mentoring with those new teachers coming in at the elementary school. Janice Heigl is coming the 17th and 18th next week. I think she's up at Lanesville the 19th. And she'll be working with us again this year through House Bill 3499 on math. Dina will come opposite months to work with our staff. So when Janice comes this month, she'll be working with our teachers with their scope and sequence and looking at what lessons in their math curriculum coincide with the Common Core standards and what ones they really don't have to worry about. There's some, our teachers are struggling to get through the entire curriculum at the end of the year, by the end of the year. So she's going to give them the ones that are going to be hit harder in another grade level so they can pull some of those out and work with them on that and common assessments. Our new teachers are going to Rotary on the 18th, our elementary teachers. I have, as you guys requested, Mr. Cahill, we're doing a substitute training for paraprofessionals and certified on the 19th. And that'll be, we'll run through safety protocols, procedures, questions about what you do with kids that are on IEPs and kind of just the ins and outs and give them the chance to ask questions about that. We have core instruction meetings for our RTI model scheduled for the 24th and 25th. We have PBI scheduled at the end of the month. We have 2 different assemblies there and then one out at Union. The Union's is not on the 27th at this point. They're kind of working on where they want to put their schedule. We do have House Bill 3499 again this year for $90,000 to work with. Janice and Dean and Susan Albertson got together with a representative from Southern Oregon ESD last week and worked on how that budget would look. They worked with Janet on the budget, and then they write a plan that has to be approved by ODE. Picture day, we did not have pictures today, although we got many, many phone calls because the high school was having pictures and they are not on the same days or the same times. So our pictures are October 2nd, K through 5, and then the 3rd, 6th, and then they go out to Union and take pictures. And then we have our site screenings for our little guys scheduled October 8th, and then we'll be filling in with hearing screenings with our new SLP from the ESD. Her name is Tiffany Roberts. So she's working on putting a schedule together to get speech going. I want to apologize to the board, to Mr. Cahill. I didn't get the email and was not able with my password to get in and give you anything but enrollment totals tonight. So I'm happy to bring that up. I know them pretty well off the top of my head, so I can talk through them with you and kind of where we're at with our enrollment from what you're hearing out in the community. But actual numbers, I can't give you that tonight, and I'm happy to send that in an email or next board meeting. Fremont's at 148, and they're just K2 now, so because we moved 3rd grade across the street. Last year, Hay is at 219, and then Union is at 51. 51's just within a couple of what Union was at last year. We swapped some kiddos back and forth. K1 is at 14 and looks really good there, but we have a brand new teacher there. Mrs. Lisney was 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, has 23 with 3 grade levels, so we aren't going to allow any more students to go out there unless they live right there, and it's a hardship, and we'll work on that on a case-by-case basis. And then 6th grade is at 14 kids, 5th, 6th, with Miss Nelson is at 14 kids. So we had a back-to-school night, Monday night, here in town. We've already done Unions, that was last week. So we visited with our parents and just gave them the option, because our 6th grade classrooms are large in town, that if they wanted to go to Union, to please see me. So we could put a few more kids out there if people chose to do that. So the 6th grade classes right now are at 30. We're up just a couple from last year in 6th grade. 5th grade is pretty large at like 27, 28, and we're providing some support and splitting those kids up for math with our math coach. So we're splitting them up into 3 classrooms for math right now. 4th grade is really pretty good. They're 22-ish, 23-ish. 3rd grade, we added another teacher there, and we appreciate that budgeting wise and approval wise, because we're able to stay around 18 or 19 for those. Last year, those classes were considerably higher because we only had 2 teachers. They were like 25s. 2nd grade, same scenario. We have 3 teachers this year in 2nd grade, and so we're bursting at the seams a little bit with just space. And they are right around 18, 19. 1st grade's at 25, up a few from last year. Kindergarten, we really projected. We project from Head Start and all our preschools in the spring, and we projected a real small kindergarten, and we had a huge influx of kids during registration week. We had a little over 50 new kids register at the elementary school. We lost enough that it just kind of pushed all of our classrooms up a little bit, but kindergarten took the worst hit. So
The best hit.
No, because we wanted to keep those classrooms small. We really want to keep those classrooms with those little guys as small as possible. But the other caveat in that is that although we had a few more kids, we also received an unusually large number of IEPs coming into our district at the elementary level, and quite a few behavioral IEPs. And so we just have been staffing that on a regular basis, almost daily, and then we staffed that for about an hour and a half today with our special ed teacher. Kayla came in off maternity leave, and Bonnie Will came down to try and problem solve how we're going to deal with all these behaviors and keep our gen ed classrooms running smoothly so that they're not disrupting those. So enrollment wise, that's kind of what we look like, and like I said, if you guys would like, I can bring those actual percentages back and forth. We have amazing staff at the elementary school. I'm just thrilled with the new hires that we have. Jess Rose is doing a job share with Nicole Muller in second grade. Suzanne Davis jumped in. She needed to go back and work on a teaching degree of 5th year. She's been in school at OSU or at EOU already this summer and is just doing some great things. Then we hired another 3rd grade teacher, and that little gal was in there more than I was this summer, and Donna worked tirelessly. She was there every day. And we were like, you need to go have some summer before this all starts, because it's gonna be exhausting when she does come in. We have several projects going on. I don't wanna take a ton of your guys' time tonight, but we had a group of about 7 staff members that worked multiple days over the summer. This was really important to our staff. They volunteered to do it, and they came in and we revamped our whole RTI system. It was a little bit antiquated from when we first started, and so Dean Richards, the ESD hired Dean Richards to do some consulting work for us, and they offered it to the district, but we were the only ones that took advantage of it, so it's really advantageous for us. And we had multiple sessions with Dean. We rewrote scope and sequence in math and reading for our teachers, K6. We developed a standards of practice that we can hand to new teachers and say, this is what your core reading should look like, this is how long, and this is what it should, how much small group time, how much whole group time. We did the same thing for math for them, and then we developed a training, and we put on our own professional development during in-service week and trained our teachers in what this RTI model should look like. And that's kind of the scope and sequence of what we'll be doing for our professional development on a lot of those Wednesdays, is they'll be working through a bunch of that. Our PBIS system is in place. We're working on improving our safety drills. We have our first safety drill scheduled for September 27th at 12:30. You're welcome to come and observe the chaos with the kinders and the first graders during those first safety drills. We have extra staff to help them. Our back to school night that we had on Monday night, we felt like could have been a little bit better attended. So we're going to put out the information and some changes that we're doing procedurally, security-wise. We need to continue to be vigilant about security and how many parents we have coming into the building. And it's little things to you guys, but we have parents that just kind of walk by that front window and will take lunches down to their kids, and we really need to just make sure they have badges and we can account for everybody in the building, little things like that. We don't feel like that got out back to school night with such low attendance, so that'll be on our website and going out in the parent note as well. Kind of get that word out. I think that's it for now. I don't want to overwhelm. Can I answer any questions for you guys?
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Facilities.
All right, I'm gonna cover a couple of things at the same time. You can see down below, you have a change order in old business for the CTE shop. So I'm gonna kind of brush on that so that you guys know what's going on there in this report combined in. So Metal Masters will be in here next week. What we worked out was after 3:30, so that it was no disruption to classrooms, Christy and or Mason. So with that came $2,800 more, and that is because of the prevailing wage overtime piece of that. So that we were roughly at a little over 21,000 on the original quote, so it's going to add 2,894 to it. I would rather do that than have them banging around in there, get kicked out because Christy can't teach or Mason can't teach because it's too loud. That is going to be the seismic piece at this point. Then I did receive a parts list just this afternoon from Daryl to move the air handler outside, which that thing is very large and it is very noisy. It's way beyond the noise level. And so that's gonna actually get moved outside to the bullpen. With that, it gets piped back in and out, so it takes out the bad air, puts back in the fresh air. And the mechanical end of that is on Brian Brown, who did our geothermal throughout the town. So he's pretty quick about mechanically engineering that stuff, way beyond my means. So Daryl has done the engineering for the movement of that equipment, and Brian has done the mechanical on that. And so that's gonna fall into place after, so we'll have to move the piece move the air handler, and then along with that, then Brian can come in and pipe in and out over the top. We're trying to tie that in on the tail end of the seismic next week. We're all working pretty vigilant to make that all happen. Ken at the building department is allowing us to move forward. We do have the seismic permit that he released for us. The mechanical and the structural piece of that, he is working with us to make that happen. So we're kind of getting in there pre-permit, even though we've applied for it, that sort of thing. So he's actually kind of turned the corner with us and is helping us out with that. The other piece is in the small engines lab. There's an air handler that's on the wall that is not doing its job, and so that is going back, and the long and the short of it, it's one of those like over the top of your stove to move the air out on, and it's as simple as that. So that will be another piece of the equipment that goes in here. The other thing that arrived the end of last week was silencers for all of the
Arc booths.
They're booths. So those will get also installed. So that was a surprise. I didn't know it was coming. Well, I knew it was coming, but nobody called and said, hey, they're on their way. So we did actually get those in, so those can be moving forward. So we're making a little bit of headway there on the ag shop. Mason bought me about 4 weeks, bless his heart, with safety tests and that sort of thing. He wanted to go through safety, so he bought me about 4 weeks, which has been super helpful. Moving on.
So, do we have like a estimated time that we're gonna truly be done with this project?
My goal is by the end of September. We're doing everything we can to get it done, because he did buy me 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
In the Metal Master, is that 2,100?
21,000.
What was the change order?
28.
28.
So everything else that you rattled off on
don't
install
know.
and move, that's all within that?
No, that's separate. That will be separate, and I expected that.
And so what is that 2,800 just for?
That is the labor on the prevailing wage, because it's after 3:30.
But labor to do what?
To do the seismic piece. So seismically attach all those welders to the wall for,
So I guess I have the question was that, did we just get the seismic permit? Is that what?
he finally released it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess where I was going is that that was able to be done this summer and they chose not to, and now
No.
are asking for more money.
No, Ken was holding it
Okay.
on us, so, yep.
So
And then when
does
I
Ken look
requested
like-
after 3:30, I know that requested after 3:30, because, honestly, I don't need him interrupting Christine, I don't need him interrupting Mason with loud noises. That's gonna be counterproductive, and so I requested that, and so the person that's actually doing the work went back and, redid his schedule, and you go, wait a minute, that's after 3:30 prevailing wage.
No, that makes sense. I just
Yeah.
thought if the permit was there and they decided to do other projects and not do one.
No, it was not.
Then we shouldn't be paying them to have to do it after.
No, that wasn't the case at all. No. Ken Cooper was holding it up, and he wasn't doing it to be ornery or mean. He was holding it because he wanted to make sure that Brian Brown and Daryl Anderson were doing their pieces of that, and they have. Were you trying to say something, Corey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Any other questions on that?
So all these changes that you were kind of getting at, we're gonna come in over budget.
Oh, absolutely. But we knew that last spring when we ran into this problem. So what we have is, I pulled down 61,000 of the CTE funds that were left over, per se. I pulled those, we were able to draw those down as an advance. And then we'll have that spent by September 30th, easily. What's gonna backfill on that is Measure 98 funds that we get from the state. And we had planned for that as well in our budget, to finish that shop with those funds.
Did we have a holdback as far as, 10% of the project or something that we didn't ever release to Norco?
Yep, I'm still sitting on it.
Okay, good.
Yep. Still sitting.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to use that
Who
after we're done
designed,
fighting with them.
who designed the entire project, do you know, was that Norton?
Norco. Yeah, there's lots of conversations going on there. still.
Your executive session.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate.
Mr. Hudson would be involved in.
And
We're
in-
chewing into Measure 98 money that could have been used for something else. Because
We
it's
could
so
have.
poorly designed.
We could have, but I think we would have been over irregardless, personally, just by design. Seems like that's always what happens. The information that we got from Norco and from their supplier wasn't helpful, and that's what spiraled it. I know that I had Ken in my office personally and had the guy out of Utah on my phone because the guy out of Utah wouldn't return Ken's call personally, so I called him and had Ken there. And he still wouldn't answer the questions that Ken was asking. So it was very frustrating. And honestly, I don't blame Ken for asking the questions and or holding it because he wasn't getting the answers that he was asking. And so to me, you know, them not being forthcoming and not answering questions straight up threw up a red flag. It would probably throw up a red flag if that was my mode of business. And it did once him and I had those conversations. So actually, I'll be honest with you, Ken has been very, very helpful in all of these projects that we have going on. He's super helpful. He realizes that, you know, you get led down the wrong path and it goes quickly, you know, it spirals downhill. So I actually give him kudos and anymore. I think I have him on speed dial anymore, so.
And again, he's showing that, folks, by letting us proceed on some things pending, you know, a permit. Because absolute sticklers on stuff like that could say, you know what, until I've signed off on this, you don't start anything. So that really shows a good faith effort by the building official to really
Yeah.
That's for sure.
cooperate with
And there's been lots
us.
of conversations, lots of meetings between all the parties put together. Carl Tracy got pulled back in, even though the wiring, you know, the electrical is done, per se. I think he might have to move a couple of things, to accommodate, especially with the air handler, that has to accommodate. But, you know, as far as being helpful, he has stepped to the plate, and so has everybody else. I couldn't give kudos to Brian and Daryl. Metal Masters has been good to work
Well, if
with.
we can actually get this thing done by October, let's have a party.
In
Put
the shop?
This thing to bed, yeah.
Grand opening or something.
Ribbon cutting, or hot dogs if you look for
At any rate, so something that has been a bad experience is actually moving in the right direction. But I do think that we would have been over irregardless, even if we were in the right direction. By just the amount of the dollar figure that was awarded to us in the first place. So I mean, personally, I think the shop will be a huge upgrade, and the numbers are growing. So, I mean, we can't hold them back on that now. And we've got some pretty good staff, I believe, in there. I mean, as far as Christiana Mason's first year, but the interaction that I've had with Mason has been very positive, so. Anything else on the ag shop? So that's what the 2,894 is. I won't go back into that in old business. You guys can deal with that. The greenhouse that is being a grant through BLM, we actually got that through plan review, passed through the town. We had to have a town sign off on that, so they signed off. And then the building department, the permit was just issued yesterday. It's gonna end up being an in-house project, knock on wood, I think. My maintenance guys are gonna be able to do that. Quinn has put up the ones at Bloomers, and so he was automatically nominated. to do that. So that, this is not a, per se, a pressing project. We have all the parts, we have all the pieces. We just now got the permit. Once those guys kind of get caught up and get their feet underneath them is probably when we'll start on that project, to install it, the greenhouse. Now, the bond process, I've had quite a few conversations with Cooperative Strategies, of which we've got contracted. They have been in contact with both principals and key employees as far as what the expectations is, what those principals would like to see in their buildings, what the concerns are, et cetera, et cetera. That is to help them pull together a survey. That survey is, I'm supposed to have the draft of the survey by Friday, the 13th, to roll it out officially 9/23 through 10/3. That's the goal. I don't know. What's that?
What's the survey?
So they're talking to, Cooperative Strategies is talking to principals, they've talked to myself, I believe they've talked to Mr. Cahill, in regards to what we would like to see, what our concerns are with the buildings, what piece of this bond goes to what, safety, security, revamp, tear it down, pull it back up, those kinds of things, where we are, what we see within our buildings. And so what they'll do is they'll create a survey to go out.
To the public?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then, once we get those surveys back, or they will, actually, they'll monitor that. Then they're proposing right at the moment a community meeting on the evening of 11/18. And we turn around and we take the survey results and we take that community meeting the next morning and we discuss it, go through it, prioritize it, whatever means we need to do with the information that we're getting.
Seems like in that process that our involvement on what those buildings look like is gonna be at the very end.
Actually,
Which probably needs to be sooner than later.
Actually, so after we get through all of that, I have it scheduled on 12/11 to have a work session with you folks. And they will be here to facilitate and help with
But if
that.
there's gonna be a community meeting,
And you're
or,
more than welcome to be there.
and, I mean, you guys cannot advocate for a bond.
No,
We as officials can,
the Cooperative Strategies, that's why we hired them.
yeah, but I guess if we aren't in alignment of what you want in the buildings,
But
and
this
we
is,
want to propose as a bond, those community meetings could go in a very awkward direction.
well, I mean, I guess I can have them contact you guys, but I know that they've done plenty of these before, several around the country. And so this is,
We could also get accused pretty hard of not having a public meeting in front of the bond, in front of them, and them not feeling
Well,
totally.
I think we'd have to have a public meeting, obviously, but I guess the concern that I could have is if we don't really know what's there, and we have this public meeting, and we haven't really seen it, we're gonna be the ones that get blindsided by people that are at this community public meeting, and we don't really have any answers for them.
Guys, that's what the survey is for before the meeting. The survey is to get out there to see what because ultimately, as we all know, a bond comes down to what the voters are gonna approve.
Right.
So we could like to do anything we want, but if the voters don't like the vision that what your guys' needs are, you're not gonna get it past the voting public, because these are tough election cells. So honestly, the most important piece probably for you guys is what is the public interested in seeing. So basically the survey is, they've taken a bunch of staff needs to see kind of what's out there, and then the public's gonna say, this is most important to me. That honestly is gonna be the shape of your bond, because hopefully the survey then represents who's gonna vote for the bond that's allocated to A, B, C, D, and F, whether it's public safety, facilities updates, et cetera. That's why I think they're setting up the process the way they're setting it up. They're trying to get the public to tell them what they're gonna see, because if they don't buy in, you guys may have every need in the world, if they're not willing to pay for it, they're not willing to do it. So that's kind of that I think is what they're thinking on the process.
So looking at the survey ahead of time would give you guys an idea of what we told them and they compiled.
Right.
And you'd be, if you look at the survey, then you know what's going out to the public, so that when you hit that community meeting, you know what kinds of things that they're, gonna be looking at.
Yeah, if you see the
Right.
survey in advance, then
Right.
then you're prepared,
Right.
and you're not.
That's why we're
blindsided.
getting a draft, that's why I'm supposed to have a draft by 9/13.
For us to look
But
at.
heaven forbid if one of us has a wonderful idea, which I'm not saying I'm going to, but one of these guys might have a wonderful idea, and if it doesn't get in the survey, you will never see the perception of the public.
On that idea.
Well, I think that there's more than one community meeting, to be honest with you.
There'll be a pile of them.
There'll be a pile of them, which means that all of those things get transpired out. I mean,
So this group that's taking, the interviewing with principals and staff and you and whatnot, they're taking that and then they're coupling that with the frightening experience that we had on how bad our buildings are and the things that are gonna fall down if we don't do something. And they're pulling that stuff in with the information you guys have been sharing with them, correct?
I guess my frustration is, and I'll say it right out here in public to the camera, is I am still at 35% on whether I'm even in support of a bond myself. And in support of it to make the vote that it goes forward out of this body here. So, I mean, I think some of that information needs to come this way to increase my understanding and my support of it.
well, and that's why
As well.
they're bringing back a work session or, to the board on 12/11. Once we get information and that sort of thing gathered, you're gonna get hit as a parent in the first place. All y'all are gonna get hit with that survey as a parent, but that's why they're sending us a draft so that we can review it. Now, what that means is that we are gonna have to do that electronically at this point. Because of the time frame, we don't have, the goal is to roll it out 9/23 to 10/3. It could get delayed by a week, depending on when that draft comes. So it's not, I don't feel like it's exclusion of the board. I think it's this party to this party to this party, and then back to this party, and then back to this party. So I think there's a lot of collaboration that's gonna end up happening, and that's why they're getting back to the board saying, this is what we're hearing, this is what we're compiling. And I think honestly, you would be able to put in your 2 cents or tell me to sell me better.
I think that work session on December 11th is gonna be your major review and input, both.
And it's gonna kind of narrow your menu options, because if there's areas that are something that you might like, but it has absolutely no community support, you're not gonna wanna throw that as a component of a bond if you decide to do a bond at all, because the voters aren't gonna go for it. I mean, you guys are gonna wanna pick, and you may not be able to get a bond that you're gonna wanna do everything. You're probably gonna have to prioritize, and you're gonna have to prioritize areas that you can get past the voters. So it's gonna be, like I said, you're not gonna be able to make everybody happy. You're gonna have to pick the best fit with, like I said, it's the process of making sausage, which it's the art of what's possible, not exactly what we would all wholly want as far as if you decide to go down this route. Because again, it's gotta get past that voters, and these are tough sells on this side of the mountains. So that's why they're trying to be so careful, trying to get the community so involved, to have them tell us what they're thinking. So that way you guys, and all of this stuff too, is messaging that, hey, we care, we have some needs, but we really care about your input, public, because we understand this is burdening your property. That's why the process, I think, is the way it's set up. So,
Well, I think what I'm hearing from you, Dustin, is you're anxious to see something come in front of you, and so that we can study it a little bit. Sounds like it's coming here real
It's
soon.
coming.
Yeah.
And, anyway, I'm as anxious as you are. Let's get this process started.
Yeah, I think we'll have.
And honestly,
It's gonna take a
we've
while of
been
our time.
started, there's just a lot of groundwork that goes into this prior to even getting to this point, So, I mean, they're working their tails off as well, and, I mean, they send me emails questioning, what's this, what's that, what's this, what's that, and so, I mean, there's just a lot of details that goes into this that I didn't even realize,
They do a lot of this, I think they're very thorough, and I think they will provide a lot of data for your group to see and look at, and also review and, make a decision.
Good.
Okay. Okay, another project that we are in the midst of is the ILC, which is within KCC side, which is on the north side. So what is left is, there's a little room that's right next to the alt ed room that they would like to see as a computer lab. There's not much for a floor in there. So floors and walls, that sort of thing is on us. I think that the data drops is gonna be on KCC themselves because it's their equipment that comes in there at the end of the day. The front entrance, flooring, and then some revamp to that library that as you walk in is right there. Those are on the docket for that. That one's just a kind of a side note so that you guys are aware that that's still happening, still going on, still being in the works.
Which money is that involved?
What-
Ford family.
I have left roughly about 128,000 to spend, and it's gotta be on that main floor.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're restricted, it's gotta be there, so we can at least have that piece of the puzzle of DNS.
It'll look really good for that.
I know, right? Exactly. Okay, moving on to the scoreboard for the football field. So we got the scoreboard mid-July, sent it off to be engineered because it is longer, not necessarily going to be taller, but is longer, which means that I had a lot of concern about, one, the wiring is probably a little bit more updated going to the new scoreboard versus the old scoreboard. I would think that we would be more energy efficient, I would hope. So,
Hopefully we can use that same circuit.
yeah, hopefully, with maybe some modification to it or something, that sort of thing. So that was one of my concerns. My other concern was those two posts that are in the ground now being able to accommodate the longer size because it is shorter for that football, the one that's there now. So that has been engineered. Daryl has done the engineering on that. He got that back to me in August, and so the application has been submitted. The town has approved it without a town permit. However, the building department is where we are sitting at for right now. I did call Jennifer this afternoon in regards to that because it does go off to plan review. The problem is Ken can't do the plan review. It has to be sent off. But my question to Ken is being that we have an engineered set of plans, is just like the ag shop, will he work with us on that? He wasn't in this afternoon, so Jennifer's gonna talk to him tomorrow. He's supposed to be here.
So do we
Tomorrow.
have the engineered posts ordered?
So,
And sites?
so that piece of it is not a huge deal. That we can pull out of Klamath and be here in a
Next
couple of
day.
days. Yeah, I mean, that's not our crisis. The crisis is, can we start without permitting? That's our crisis.
Well,
Which-
I feel like we're gonna probably have a lot of comments coming our way, and they're not gonna be very positive, starting Friday night.
Well, they're probably not gonna be very positive when they sit down in your bleachers also. So I'm just gonna bring that up to you because
What's
there's
wrong with the bleachers?
they've been graffitied. We've blacked them out for right at the moment. We do have the suspects, which are supposed to come in and do the painting, which I just got off the phone with Buddy now. So there's gonna be a lot of that. Not to mention these bathrooms out here were vandalized also, and I mean vandalized pretty badly to the tune of about $5,000. So that out here is also on my docket of getting things done too, because that is bad. So brace yourself for the bleachers, because that's probably gonna come, although we did do our best
So
because they were
we
totally inappropriate.
painted over what they put on them.
Yes. So it's got black paint, so we could at least black it out. On this end, it's on this end of the bleachers, this side, whatever that side is. Anyway,
Business.
so, yes, they're probably going to But I am going to tell you, I cannot cross Ken Cooper's radar again, especially since I've been through it with the ag shop. We've got a good working relationship.
So I don't need to call all of our county commissioners to see if we can move this along so we don't have an uproar?
I would appreciate it if you didn't,
Well,
because
you know,
of the
the other
fact.
side of this is, we don't seem to, because we have lots of problems continually. You know, we can't seem to get a project actually completed in the time frame and in the scope of what we think we're gonna do. So, you know, as we're talking about going out with bonds and all these things, you know, what confidence does the community have in our ability to get a project put together?
Well, I got a little bit behind the 8 ball with the scoreboard because I didn't have all the information. I didn't realize that it was way longer until it got here.
So, because
So
really,
that's a
Daryl
problem.
could have done all the engineering off of the specs of what we ordered.
He would have had to have done it with what the specs came with. That's how he would have had to done that.
Well, yeah, but
But
the
I could
company
have also
sent us
ordered-
the specs.
Right, I could have ordered that realizing that it was longer. I did not realize that it was longer than the one that's already up there. I was thinking, oh, slap it up there, use the same posts, no big deal. Until it got here and it's filling the whole garage lengthwise. That was the difference maker. Right there. So,
Well, I just feel like, it is what it is at this point, but, you know, as we go out to the community and try and get money and raise money for these projects, and we can't deliver. They give us the money and we can't deliver.
well, there's a lot to this, Corey. To be honest with you, we are a government agency, and
I'm
so
fully aware of that, Janet.
Well,
But how can we continue to go out there and try and, you know, beg, borrow, steal, plead for money? And, you know, honestly, I'm gonna be surprised if we have a scoreboard this football season. You know, I think we're gonna really have a backlash about it. You know, people are upset about the ag shop. Then we got them to donate all this money for the scoreboard, and, you know, a year later, are we gonna have it? I mean, it's crazy to me that this is how these processes are working. And I think we have to get better at it.
I heard a rumor that our old scoreboard doesn't work,
It didn't work at the end of last year, the end of last football season.
so what are we doing for Friday?
It does work. Mr. Rose has gone through it, tested it, and it is working, so.
Our last playoff game, it didn't work.
So,
Okay, Janet,
go ahead.
anything else? Alright. Okay. That completes reports. We've covered, the CT shop change order in old business, but we need a motion.
I move to approve the CDP shop change order number 1 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the CT shop change order number 1 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. New business.
Yes, I'm proposing cancellation of our next meeting in September. Got thrown on me here about 2-3 weeks ago through ODE, through the Healthy Schools grant that we're gonna receive, which is for a 3-year grant, 15,000, 12,000, 15,000, 15,000 over 3 years' time. They mandated that 5 of us be at an all-day meeting up in Redmond, myself included. So, based on my appearance to be at that meeting up there, I'm recommending cancellation of the September 25th meeting.
Is there any plan to add one or just move on with their
Move
schedule?
into October, yeah.
Right. Any discussion?
I'm going anyway, so.
Okay.
I move to approve the cancellation of the regular session board meeting scheduled for September 25th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the cancellation of the regular session board meeting scheduled for September 25th, 2019 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.2.
Mr. Louie, I'm gonna let him present this since Mr. Stratton had run over to high school. I think it's a nice opportunity, a planning course statement for a career mental program.
That's okay. I can
Here you
wing
go,
it
here you
on
go.
it,
You know
so.
how to be able to.
I should be able to wing it on it, I'm teaching it.
I figured you can.
That would be the hope,
Um,
Mr. Louie.
So we added a new math class this year due to the needs of our mid-level students. I think sometimes we've been leaving unengaged with the math program. So what was happening was we had Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. Well, the next jump for a fourth year math was up to pre-calculus. Well, that's a fairly large leap for a lot of students, even if they plan on going to a four-year university. So what we wanted to create was a math class that would allow for a fourth year math that kind of stayed at that Algebra 2, Geometry, Algebra 1 level there, and just kind of moved them sideways with different information as well as reinforcement of the previous stuff learned, in hopes that math placement for those kids, rather than take a year off, math placement would remain at an upper level mathematics, at least a 100 level course for daily fun, Collins McDonald, all that stuff that requires 100 level credits. So we included what we call career mathematics. There is the ability for them to get dual credit through KCC for it in the winter term. So what we'll do is we'll do some algebraic reinforcement all through the fall here, getting them ready for a placement test through KCC. If they place into it, then they can proceed to a 4-credit winter term for it, so they can receive a 105 credit through KCC through their Math and Society class. So that's available. It gives them a little bit more incentive to take the course if they know they're going to receive a little bit of something for it potentially at the end. So that's what we created. It'll also be a reinforcement if they take it as, so what we also saw too is sometimes as an Algebra 1 geometry student, if you have struggled there, maybe you need something even before you get to Algebra 2. I've made that to where it can reinforce some of that stuff too, where maybe Algebra 2 is your senior level course that you take, okay? So doing some stuff with SAT prep for it. So there'll be some SAT preparation in there for the SAT test that the junior might take in the spring, seniors might take in the fall. And then some other stuff for state testing. If they're a junior, we'll do some reinforcement for state testing in there also. So that was the goal of this class. There's a curriculum through KCC that will be following in the winter and spring terms to keep them on track there. So we'll do some innovative stuff to start with, to do some prep, and then include some different math also, so it's actually something different for the students. It's not just this year-long review where they're bored because they're doing the same things over and over again. Very much in a reasoning-based mathematics class through KCC. Inductive reasoning, problem solving, all sorts of mathematical terms that happen within a sociology major. It's geared towards humanities and stuff like that, so it's those non-science and math-based majors. So that is the crust of where career mathematics come from and why we've talked for years about trying to reach those other kids, and this is our kind of our first attempt at doing that. So we're hoping, we're sitting at about, I think we have 22 in there currently right now. So that's what we have signed up for it. We'll see how it plays out for the year.
Good. Questions?
Just the textbooks?
Textbook, I integrate with KCC.
Okay.
So I'm using textbooks that we currently have and material that we currently have for the Algebra 1 through Algebra 2 reinforcement, and then I will use a KCC textbook that we have on order that we got funds for.
I think that there'll be a lot of kids that will take that to get that 105 credit.
That's what we're hoping is that's that
I think that's all
that
Matt
little
James had to have for
cookie
his
that they can nibble on there.
criminal justice degree.
That's exactly what,
Yeah.
it's all that, it's all those types of majors that don't necessarily need that. And we're hoping with, you know, the fact that we're just trying to get CCs all on board, that other places accept all those credits, we're hoping that that is where this is all going, that 105 will allow them to take it other places and say, nope, I have a 100 level math class already in the books. So,
Alright,
Thank you, appreciate that.
we have a motion.
I move to approve the planned course statement for career math as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the planned course statement for career math as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
You should have called this on this one.
10, consent agenda.
As presented.
And with that, Will, our recommendations on the policy updates, this is with the ones that we
The 10.6.
liked and didn't like as we talked about before.
Right.
Okay. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Announcements.
We got two of them. The OSBA Fall Regional Meeting is October 16th, 6 o'clock at Paisley. I believe they'll begin with dinner, 6 o'clock, and then 6:30 the OSBA representatives. I'm sure they will give you probably quite a conversation as far as what came out of the 2019 legislative session and the impact on schools. So I suspect that's probably what's in store for that evening. If you help reserve the expedition from Janet, probably we will need to leave out of here about 5 o'clock to get up there, and I strongly encourage you to go. I think we had Barry last year, Janet went last year, so do try to go to that. It's a great opportunity also to, collaborate with your fellow board members from across the county. Plache, Dell, North Lake, Paisley, they always have a pretty good contingent of folks that show up from all those various schools. So, the next one, I would like to personally recognize and thank Michael for his service to the Lake County Examiner, and also for his dedication to Lake County School District 7. Candy's going to present him a little gift on behalf of the board, myself, and the district office. Michael, you've done some pretty great press coverage of us.
Well, thank you.
We've appreciated it very much. You've supported our schools. We will miss you.
Thank you.
And we wish you well in your future endeavors and your return trip home to Texas.
Thank you.
So,
Well,
thank you, Michael.
Got to thank you guys. When I first started, first of all, it's hard to believe I've been here 2.5 years, but I knew pretty much next to nothing about government. I knew the basics, enough to hold a conversation, but to actually write week after week, you guys have been great partners to me. I learned a lot, and thank you. That's all. Short, sweet, to the point.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next board meeting agenda items.
I'll have the reports. I'm going to give you a report on the governor's $1 billion Student Success Act, what that means to this district. Lonnie is going to...
That's supposed to say Special Education Director report, not meeting. Sorry about that, my bad.
Lonnie will give you a Special Education Director report, and basically that's what's in store for the next meeting for the time being.
And is that on the 9th?
That would be,
I
Is
think
it
that's
October
October
9th?
11th, actually, isn't it?
I think it's the
11th?
9th. I think
Is it the
believe it's
9th?
The 11th
yeah.
is Friday.
It'll be
Okay, so it's
October
9th.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Adjournment.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. We'll go into executive session.